Segment 4.5 The Suck of Chuck.
What doesn't work? And let's talk about characters or episodes or even say in the romance.
The romance.
We'll go
Okay.
there.
I think, with the exception of Emmett, most of the other characters work for me. So I really can't address any issues there. With episodes, it's much easier for me. I know we've had this discussion back and forth over the past season, especially, but the episodes where the buy more is not integral to the plot or is not interwoven with the spy plot. In those cases, I find that it's a waste of time. And and Chuck is a difficult show because it's such a cross-genre show. For my personal slant, I'd like to see it actually kind of ease back on the comedy a bit more and get a bit more serious, because I think they have some great potential scenarios that they could play out a lot better if they had more time in each episode.
Pipe dream, Lou.
I
Pipe
know,
dream.
which unfortunately the buy more cuts into, and and a continuation of that dislike with the show is that they frequently set up things that we're expecting some big payback or payoff to come down the road, and they don't follow up on it. The Mauser incident is one. The bracelet is another. I know that The Ring is a lot of is on many's number one top list of favorite episodes, but I was kind of disappointed with the resolution of the removal of the intersect. I mean, you've spent 2 seasons trying to get to this point, and it's glossed over fairly quickly. So things like that are things that I think they should mine out more. The setup with Jill returning, you'd expect a scene between her and Sarah talking about, issues between Chuck, but that never happens. So it's things like that that I find kind of frustrating at times. But I realize that they're catering to a wide spectrum of viewers, and the comedy aspects have to be played up as well. So
Right.
you kind of take what they give. But I just think if they dialed back on the comedy just a tad and maybe kept it more within the spy world, I think that they could really make a tighter and more interesting show. And I'm hoping, based on what we're hearing for the third season, that actually some of those things are going to come to pass to a certain degree.
There's an element of the romance that I think really irks people, and it was brought to a front in a sense, and a lot of people, the critics, missed it entirely.
Hmm.
But or they decided to miss it because they love the show so much that they didn't want to point out the major flaw here.
Right.
But and I that's what I suspect, by the way, and that's why I want to do this fan cast, because I want to point out some things that
Oh
are
yeah.
pretty obvious, no one talks about.
That no,
But
everyone's missing
I
them.
think there was a collusion in a sense, maybe an unspoken one, but like a mental projection from each critic to not mention the problem with the ring.
Oh.
And here's the problem: you develop this thing. They keep doing this. It's not the first time. This is not the last time they'll do it either. Is they bring this whole thing in Colonel. Lethal Weapon had the perfect setup for Chuck and Sarah cannot be together until the end of the series, and everything's fine, and we understand
Right.
because he's gonna be with the girl that he loves and all that stuff when he gets the intersect out of his head. Then in Colonel, they have this whole thing with them
Oh
being
man.
together and all that stuff, and probably the perfect ending, minus like the last 30 seconds or whatever.
No, even that is it's a good cliffhanger
But
and
I'm
a good
saying, like, if
watch.
you cut that out, you have a perfect end of the
Oh
series.
yeah, definitely.
And then you go into the ring, and it's as if none of that happened.
Right.
It's as if none of it happened. And then Bryce, of course, Bryce is always there as a
Bryce.
Bryce. I love Bryce, but
Hate
I
Bryce.
hate how they use him to always be the device that kind of screws up Chuck and Sarah in a sense.
Mhm. It
Because
makes people hate him.
you know he'll come back. Like, I know people are saying like, oh, he's dead, and Chris Fedek and Josh Schwartz both said he's dead. He'll come back in some respect to
Even
screw
if
them
it's
up
just because
right
they're
as they're
talking
about to be
about
together.
him.
What?
Even if they're just talking about him. It's not necessarily
Yeah.
he's coming back, but if they'll
No,
say,
he'll come back in some respects just to
some
screw
way,
them
shape, or
because
form.
he always does.
Hmm.
So
And that's why I hate him.
You can't hate him for that. You gotta hate the writers for that.
No, I'm gonna hate.
Even though I love the writers, well, at least Matt Miller and Ali Adler, I love them. 'Cause some of my favorite episodes are written by them.
Yep.
Even though Ali Adler wrote part of Ring, uh, I just pretty much figured that she wrote all the really good parts.
There you go.
That's how I look at it. But that's the one thing is you set up this whole thing where they have this growth and then you yank it back. But it's not that they do that. It's that most shows usually do it, at major cliffhanger points, like midpoint of the season and then the end of the season. These guys have done it way too many times. Like they constantly have like the perfect opportunity to stick with what they've set up, like why Chuck and Sarah can't be together,
Right.
and then 2 episodes later they pull it back, and they re-mess with us.
I think my main issue with the Romance in the Ring was that they did this knowing that it was a possibility that they weren't going to get a third season, and they have this cliffhanger where we don't know. I mean, we know obviously, but Chuck doesn't know that Sarah, loves him. And to leave a season and possibly a series on that note, I feel like it's just disrespectful to the fans that love the show so much. My reaction, I was screaming, obviously, my first reaction, because that's what I do after the end of every episode. But I came downstairs after the finale, and I was so mad about it. I was just very, very angry, and everyone was like, "Oh, you're looking at it the wrong way and everything." And I came back on the next day, and everyone was like, "Rachel was right. This was awful."
Yeah. I gotta say, I love the show. I love everyone who works on it. I love the writers and even Josh and Chris. But I felt a little bit betrayed.
So did I.
After all this, and you have this, I know that they wrote the episode and shot them before the whole fan campaigns really started, but
still, yeah.
But still, there was like this kind of thing, like you gotta know that if your show could end, that you gotta give us something better than that. I wish they would have just made Colonel the last episode, and then, but whatever. We got to deal with what we have, and so what we have right now is. Even still today for me, the least satisfying last episode of a season I've ever seen, and so I'm hoping the season 3. But the fact that we have to wait so long, I guess, just makes it worse.
Season 3 is so far away.
There's quite valid criticism that in the Colonel they basically took back some things and to a large degree undermined what could have been a really powerful scene when Chuck got reintersected. If he had gone into that with him and Sarah having had a full adult conversation about how they felt about each other instead of the interruptions and the stopped conversations that they did in the ring, which was too bad because I fully expected them by the end of the second season to have at least exchanged some sort of overt communication of feelings to one another, whether it was an "I love you" or whatever. But I don't know why they felt compelled to take that back.
Yeah, that's one of those strange things. Why would creative people not understand that they have a great opportunity to increase the importance of Chuck's action?
Yeah, they really want to hold that last card off the table for some reason, which is too bad. I really would like to see them try to save that at the beginning of the third season by them having that conversation, because it doesn't, by them having them admit their feelings for one another, that's not going to prevent them from experiencing further obstacles going forward. Obviously this new intersect is going to change pretty well everything, so why they had to hold that back, that was kind of disappointing.
If you look at Morgan for season 1, he was I couldn't stand the character. He was so immature, and he was Chuck's best friend, and you could see how Chuck was the way he was because Morgan was his best friend at that time. He's grown up a little bit, but he's still immature, and he kind of.
So you're saying that Morgan was bringing Chuck down?
If Chuck was with Casey and Sarah, and and had Awesome and everybody else in his life, but besides Morgan, I'm sure that he would be a little bit more mature, and be able to handle things a little bit more.
Right.
I think as we saw at the end of season 2. He started to get that, and we saw it in the ring where he's like, "You know what, buddy? Sometimes we're being stupid. You just got to do do what follow your heart, not your head. So Jeff and Lester are good in moderation, but some of these episodes where they're coming in and they're just there for comic relief, but the comic relief is over the top, and you're watching it and you're like, it's either too creepy, it doesn't go with the storyline. It just seems like they're just trying to add them in.
Like Beefcake.
Yeah, like Beefcake. That's the one where they did the casting couch. That whatever that episode was, that was just way over the top. Or
especially in an episode where I think in that episode more than any other, we just wanted to really get to the story. Like, you didn't want to be distracted at all, and it was such a weird beat, the casting couch. And I'm usually a big fan of the Buy More and Jeff and Lester, but that was one episode where I felt, wow, we just don't need this at all. I really need to see what's going.
Exactly.